Imagine walking into the room you trust most in your home, the place where you prepare meals, gather with family, and nourish your body, only to discover it is filled with hidden dangers that could send you to the emergency room in seconds. The worst part, you use these things every single day, believing they are harmless, maybe even essential. I am about to reveal something that affects 3 million seniors every single year. This is not your fault. Nobody warned you. Your family probably does not see the risks. Even safety experts sometimes overlook these everyday items. After reviewing data from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the CDC, and the National Fire Protection Association, I uncovered a disturbing truth. People over 55 have a 2.7 times greater risk of dying from kitchen accidents than younger adults. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share could save your life, or the life of someone you love. But first, let me ask you a simple question. How many times do you visit your kitchen each day? If you are over 55 years old, write that number in the comments and let us know if you like this type of content. I will explain why that number matters more than you think. Let me tell you the story of Helen. Helen is 72 years old, a retired teacher from Minneapolis, a woman who raised 3 children, cooked thousands of meals, and never had a single kitchen accident in 50 years. Until one Tuesday afternoon changed everything. Helen was making her famous chicken soup, a recipe she'd prepared hundreds of times. She put the pot on the stove, turned on the burner, and stepped into the living room to answer a phone call from her daughter. They talked about her grandson's birthday party, about the weather, about nothing particularly important. 15 minutes passed. Then she smelled something. Not burning food, burning fabric. She rushed to the kitchen. Her dish towel, hanging too close to the burner, had caught fire. Flames were already spreading to the wooden spoon holder. Helen panicked. She grabbed the towel with her bare hand, burned her palm severely, and dropped it onto the floor, where it ignited a kitchen mat. By the time she called 911, smoke filled half her house. Here's what the fire inspector told her family later. This happens every single day, and seniors are the most vulnerable. According to FEMA, people over 55 face a staggering 2.7 times higher risk of DYing in a kitchen fire than the general population. Not getting injured, dying. The National Fire Protection Association reports that 3 out of 10 home fires start in the kitchen, more than any other room. And 99% of those fires involve cooking equipment that's over 10 years old. But here's the hidden danger nobody talks about. Memory. As we age, our brains process time differently. 15 minutes can feel like 5. Distractions become more powerful. And the simple act of leaving food on the stove, something you've done safely 1,000 times before, suddenly becomes life-threatening. Helen survived, but she spent 2 weeks in the hospital for smoke inhalation and second-degree burns. Her house needed $40,000 in repairs, and she hasn't cooked on her stove since. What could have saved her? An automatic shut-off timer. A $15 device that connects to your stove and automatically turns it off after a set time. Helen's daughter installed one the day she came home from the hospital. Never, ever leave the kitchen when food is frying, grilling, or broiling. If it's roasting, baking, or simmering, set a timer. Every single time. Keep dish towels, pot holders, and paper products at least 3 feet away from all burners. And if your stove is more than 10 years old, consider replacing it with a model that has built-in safety features. Your kitchen should be a place of nourishment, not danger. Now, if you're thinking, I'm always careful, stay with me. Because danger number 2 happens in the blink of an eye, and it affects 3 million seniors every single year. Before we continue, if you're finding this helpful, please hit that subscribe button. We're dedicated to keeping seniors safe, informed, and independent. And every subscription helps us reach more people who need this information. Let me introduce you to Frank. Frank, 78, former construction worker. A man who built houses with his bare hands for 40 years. Strong, steady, independent. One morning while making his coffee, Frank spilled a few drops of water near the sink. Just a splash, barely noticeable. He meant to wipe it up, but the phone rang. He turned to answer it. His foot hit the wet spot. In less than a second, Frank was on the floor. His hip shattered on impact. The emergency room doctor told his son something chilling. This is the 5th hip fracture we have seen this week. All from kitchen falls. All from seniors living alone. Here is the statistic that should terrify you. The Centers for Disease Control reports that 3 million older adults are treated in emergency rooms for fall-related injuries every single year. And the kitchen is considered a high-risk fall zone. Why? Because kitchens have everything needed for a perfect disaster. Water, oil, smooth floors, distractions, and seniors moving quickly between tasks. But there is something deeper happening here that most people do not understand. As we age, our reflexes slow down. Studies show that reaction time in a 70-year-old is 40% slower than in a 30-year-old. When you slip, your brain sends a signal to your muscles to catch yourself, but that signal takes longer to arrive. By the time your body responds, you are already falling. Frank spent 6 weeks in rehabilitation. He lost the ability to live independently, and a year later, he moved into assisted living, not because of his age, but because of one moment of distraction and a few drops of water. What could have changed his life? Non-slip mats placed in front of the sink, the stove, and the refrigerator. They cost $20 and take 2 minutes to install. A simple rule. If you spill anything, wipe it immediately. Not later. Not after you finish what you are doing. Immediately. Wear shoes with rubber soles in the kitchen. Never walk on smooth floors in socks or slippers. And here is something most people never consider. If you mop the floor, do not walk on it until it is completely dry. Put a chair across the entrance as a reminder. Small puddles, huge consequences. Which brings me to danger number 3. And this one sends more seniors to the emergency room than you would ever imagine. Everyone knows number 3, but we need to mention it as a reminder. You can listen if you want additional information, or you can skip to number 4. the dangers that 97% of seniors underestimate. Meet Dorothy, 69, a passionate home cook who prided herself on preparing fresh meals every day. One afternoon, while slicing tomatoes for a salad, Dorothy's knife slipped, and the knife slipped out of her hand. Not because she was careless, not because the knife was dull, but because her hand, weakened by arthritis, could not grip the handle as firmly as it used to. The blade cut deep into her index finger. Blood poured into the sink. She needed 12 stitches and could not use her hand for 3 weeks. She told the emergency room nurse that she had been cooking for 50 years and that she never thought she would hurt herself cutting a tomato. 50 years had taught her a lot, but not this. But here is the reality. Hand strength decreases by about 1% every year after age 50. By 70, you have lost 20% of your grip strength. That is not weakness. That is biology. And when you combine reduced grip strength with knives, mandolins, graters, and other sharp kitchen tools, you create a perfect storm for injury. Cutting injuries are the second leading cause of kitchen accidents in seniors. And unlike burns or falls, they often happen to the most experienced cooks, people who have been using knives their entire lives. Second to nothing, the safest cooks can still get hurt. Dorothy thought she was being safe, but she was using the same 8-inch chef's knife she had had for 20 years. What she did not realize is that as her hands weakened, her tools needed to change too. 8-inch was familiar, but not always safe. After the accident, her daughter bought her 3 things. A cutting glove. It is made from cut-resistant material, and it protects your non-dominant hand while you chop. You can find one online for $15. Easy grip knives with larger, textured handles. They are designed specifically for seniors with arthritis or reduced hand strength. Easy grip handles make a big difference. A rocking knife, the kind with 2 handles where you press down instead of sawing. It is safer, easier to control, and reduces the risk of slipping. Rocking knife design gives more control. Dorothy also learned to use a damp towel under her cutting board. It stops the board from sliding around, giving her much more control. Damp towel keeps the board steady. 6 months later, she is cooking again. Confident, safe, and injury-free. Confident and back at the stove. Your hands have served you well for decades. It is okay to admit they need a little help now. Hands have earned that care. But listen closely, because danger number 4 is even more serious. And it sends thousands of seniors to burn units every single year. Danger ahead. Arthur is 75, a retired mechanic. He fixed engines, lifted heavy parts, and worked with his hands his entire life. One evening, Arthur was boiling water for pasta. He filled his largest pot, a heavy cast-iron one he had owned for 30 years. As he lifted it off the stove to the water into the colander, his grip slipped. Just for a second. But a second was all it took. Boiling water splashed across his forearm and chest. The pot crashed to the floor. Arthur stood there screaming, with second-degree burns covering 15% of his body. His wife called an ambulance. He spent 4 days in the hospital. The burns took 2 months to heal, and the scars will stay with him forever. The burn unit doctor told Arthur's family that they see this constantly. Seniors use cookware that is too heavy for them, and their skin is thinner and more vulnerable. Burns that might be mild in a younger person become severe in older adults. This is the reality. As we age, our skin loses collagen. It becomes thinner, more fragile, and far more susceptible to burns. A pot of boiling water that would cause a minor injury in a 30-year-old can cause life-threatening burns in a 70-year-old. And there is another factor: balance. Studies show that balance deteriorates by about 1% per year after 60. When you are carrying a heavy pot of boiling liquid, if your balance shifts even slightly, disaster follows. Arthur's accident was preventable. If you cook, you need to hear this. Replace heavy pots and pans with lightweight alternatives. Modern non-stick cookware is half the weight of cast iron and just as effective. Never fill pots more than 2/3 full. A partially filled pot is easier to control and less dangerous if spilled. Use both hands when carrying anything hot and move slowly. There is no rush worth risking your safety. Invest in oven mitts that extend up your forearms. Regular pot holders leave your wrists and arms exposed. Consider oven rack guards. They are silicone shields that clip onto your oven racks. If your hand or arm brushes against the hot metal, the guard protects your skin. They cost $12 and prevent hundreds of burns every year. Arthur now uses lightweight pots, moves carefully, and never rushes. He has not had another accident since. But there is one more danger lurking in your kitchen. This one is invisible, odorless, and kills 5,000 Americans every year. Barbara was 73 and lived alone after her husband passed. She was independent, active, and healthy. Until one Saturday night, she made herself a chicken salad. The chicken had been in her fridge for 5 days, maybe 6. She was not sure, but it smelled fine, so she used it. By midnight, Barbara was vomiting violently. By morning, she could not stand. Her neighbor found her collapsed on the bathroom floor, severely dehydrated. The diagnosis was food poisoning. Salmonella. She spent a week in the hospital. She lost 12 pounds. She nearly died from dehydration and organ stress. Barbara told her daughter that she had eaten leftovers her whole life and that she thought if it smelled okay, it was safe. But here is what Barbara did not know. As we age, our sense of smell weakens. By 70, you have lost 40% of your ability to detect spoiled food. Something that smells fine to you might be dangerously contaminated. The CDC reports that 76 million cases of foodborne illness occur every year in the United States. 5,000 people die. Seniors are the most vulnerable. Why? Because your immune system naturally weakens with age. An infection that a younger person fights off in 2 days can hospitalize a senior for weeks. Food safety is not about being paranoid. It is about understanding that your body does not defend itself the way it used to. Barbara's daughter helped her create a system. Label everything. Use a marker to write the date on every container of leftovers. If you cannot remember when you cooked it, throw it away. Use a refrigerator thermometer. Your fridge should be below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. If it is warmer, food spoils faster. Follow the 2-hour rule. If food sits out at room temperature for more than 2 hours, bacteria multiply rapidly. Do not risk it. And here is the big one. When in doubt, throw out. is not worth gambling your health over a container of leftovers. Barbara also started using a food thermometer. She checks that chicken reaches 155 degrees, pork reaches 145 degrees, and leftovers are reheated to steaming hot. She has not had food poisoning since. She will never take food safety lightly again. Now, there is one final danger we need to talk about. Unlike the others, this one is environmental, but it is just as deadly. George, 81, was making himself a sandwich late one evening. His kitchen light had burned out 2 days earlier, but he kept meaning to replace it. He figured the light from the hallway was enough. It was not. As George reached for a knife in the drawer, he misjudged the distance. The blade caught his thumb, not a deep cut, but enough to bleed. Frustrated, he turned quickly to grab a paper towel. His foot caught the edge of the kitchen mat. He fell backward, hitting his head on the corner of the counter. He woke up in the hospital with a concussion, 7 stitches in his head, and a gash on his thumb. All because of a burned-out light bulb. The truth is, vision naturally declines with age. By 70, your eyes need 3 times more light to see clearly than they did at age 20. Shadows become darker. Depth perception weakens. And what looks bright enough to you might actually be dangerously dim. Poor lighting is involved in nearly 30% of all kitchen accidents among seniors. It is not the primary cause, but it is the factor that turns a small mistake into a serious injury. George's son installed motion sensor LED lights throughout the kitchen. Now, every time George enters the room, bright, even light floods the space. No switches to fumble for, no dark corners. He also added under cabinet lighting above the countertops and a bright bulb directly over the stove. The cost? $60. The peace of mind? Priceless. If you are over 55, your kitchen needs to be brighter than you think. Do not trust your eyes to tell you what is enough. Add more light than feels necessary. Replace old bulbs with bright LED lights. They are affordable, energy efficient, and last for years. And never, ever cook in dim light. If a bulb burns out, replace it immediately. Do not wait. Do not make do. George learned that lesson the hard way. You do not have to. 6 dangers. 6 real stories. 6 lives changed by moments of distraction, aging bodies, and hidden risks. Helen's stove fire. Frank's fall. Dorothy's knife slip. Arthur's boiling water. Barbara's food poisoning. George's dark kitchen. These aren't cautionary tales meant to scare you. They're real events that happen every single day to people just like you. But here's the truth. Every single one of these accidents was preventable. Small changes, simple awareness, and a willingness to admit that the way you've always done things might need to evolve. Your kitchen should be a place of joy, nourishment, and independence, not danger. So tonight, walk through your kitchen. Look for the hazards. Make the changes. Install an automatic shut-off timer on your stove. Put down non-slip mats. Upgrade your knives and cutting tools. Replace heavy pots with lightweight ones. Label your leftovers. And add more light. Aging is inevitable. Accidents are not. And if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to check out our other video, 5 common bedroom items with high radiation levels. for anyone over 55. Number 4 is next to most beds, and you need to know what it is. Subscribe to the Senior Guide for more life-saving tips made just for you. Take care of yourself. You deserve safety. You deserve independence. And you deserve to enjoy your kitchen without fear. I'll see you in the next video.